I'm going to talk to you about guns, a very uncontentious topic that nobody has strong opinions on. For me, guns have a lot of good memories. When I was young, I'd go skeet shooting with my dad, and I'd proudly take my 28-gauge shotgun out of the car, sling the bag of shells that I helped reload over my shoulder, and take my spot on the range. Now, if you haven't been skeet shooting a moving target's pretty hard. You've got to lead it just right, you've got to account for the wind, but when you hit it and you watch it explode, it's a really satisfying feeling. Guns have taught me a lot of life lessons. Patience and discipline, responsibility, safety, and hunting has taught me the value of life and death, as well as given me about 500 good venison recipes. So if you're interested during the break, we can swap some stories. I talked about guns so much when I was young that in 8th grade, my classmates named me most likely to be Annie Oakley in the Nick's Wild West show. And then when I was adult, I became a United States Marine. And guns taught me a lot of lessons again. As a young officer in Quantico, Virginia, training with an M16 was hard. And Marines are really competitive. So when I was able to qualify as an expert with both the rifle and the pistol, those feelings of pride, that sense of accomplishments comes rushing back. Guns were a central part of our discipline and our camaraderie and our brotherhood and sisterhood. But for those of us in the military after 9/11, guns became an everyday matter of life and death on deployment. I flew the AH-1 Whiskey Super Cobra attack helicopter. It was my job to kill the bad guys with guns, to keep our good guys with guns safe. As a Marine in Iraq, this was a common experience.
Okay, get across. Go, 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 go. I'm going.
The sounds you just heard are United States Marines defending themselves with M4 rifles. The M4 is the military's version of the AR-15. The AR-15 may be the rifle that is the most difficult to talk about. We've all seen them on the news, and after every tragic mass shooting, they come rushing back into our national conversations. There may not be a gun in production today that evokes so much emotion on both sides of the debate as the AR-15. But what is the AR-15, and how did it come to take its place in our national dialogues? The AR-15 was a game changer for US soldiers in Vietnam. Vietnam was a new type of conflict, where soldiers had to walk miles and miles through dense jungle. And they were up against an enemy using the Soviet-made AK-47. In contrast, our troops had the heavier World War II era M1 Garand or M14 rifles. These rifles were big, bulky, hard to maneuver, and shot less rounds in less time than the AK-47. Our troops were outgunned, and the Army quickly realized that they needed a new service rifle. Armalite's AR-15 ended up fitting the bill. Now, the Armalite AR-15 was never designed to be a weapon of war, but the characteristics of it that made it ill-suited for hunting and many sporting pursuits make it ideal for combat. The Department of Defense took this platform and turned it into the iconic M16 service rifle. So what makes this weapon so ideally suited for combat? What makes it a near perfect weapon of war? There are four main things. First, it's light. The M16 was 3 pounds. That's nearly 30% lighter than the M1 or the M14. Now, if you've ever carried anything and walked for a really long time, 3 pounds add up really, really quickly. For foot-borne soldiers, this is a game changer. Second, it's shorter. The M16 is nearly half a foot shorter than the M1. This makes it more maneuverable, a lot easier to use when you're walking through dense jungle or on patrol. Third, it shoots smaller bullets. Now, these smaller bullets have 3 main advantages. Number one, they too are lighter. In Vietnam, soldiers were able to carry 4 times as much ammunition with the M16 as they were with their previous service rifles for the same amount of weight. Next, you can shoot more rounds in less time. Previous service rifles suffered from overheating, and they could shoot for 2, maybe 3 minutes, and their heavy weight meant that there were 8 to 10 round magazines. The AR-15 platform was designed to shoot hundreds of bullets sequentially, and the light weight of the round meant that 30-round magazines became very common. More time shooting, less time reloading, more time killing. Third, small bullets do more damage. On the right is an X-ray of a larger round, similar to that you would see in the M1. It goes cleanly through the human body. On the left, damage from an AR-15 that upon entering the skin starts to ricochet, shattering bones and causing previously unheard of damage to the human body. Finally, it's the muzzle velocity of the M16. If you remember from your physics class, force equals mass times velocity squared. The muzzle velocity of the M16 was nearly 3 times that of their previous weapons. As a result, that square, there is 9 times as much killing force in this weapon. By the time the Army adopted the M16 in 1965, it could shoot through both sides of a standard issue military helmet at 500 meters, while causing previously unseen damage to the human body, all while being lighter, more maneuverable, and easier to use. This is a weapon made for war. And since 1965, our servicemen and women have been carrying some variant of the AR platform into combat with them. Now, it's important to note that this is not a fully automatic machine gun. This is a semi-automatic rifle. But it can still be shot very quickly and do a lot of damage. Just how quickly can someone shoot one of these? That's how fast someone can shoot 30 rounds, 1 magazine, from an AR-15. The faces you just saw are 30 Americans who have lost their life to a bullet from an AR-15 inside the border of the United States, shot by another American citizen. When I was in the Marine Corps, then General, now our Secretary of Defense, Mattis, used to always say, every time an American kills another American, we're doing the enemy's job for them. And this amount of loss of life would nearly shut down combat operations to figure out what we did wrong that so many Americans died. It was never too soon to talk about it. So, if you want to kill a lot of people at middle distance really quickly, this is a perfect tool for the job. It doesn't mean it's the perfect weapon for everything. That same damage that the bullets from the AR-15 do to the human body they do to animals, making this an ill-suited hunting rifle. That bullet that can travel through a service helmet also goes through walls, and they go far, meaning that if you're using this for home defense, there's a good chance you're going to shoot somebody else in the house and possibly even your neighbors. In many states, hunting with these weapons is illegal for this very reason. So if they are ill-suited for these purposes, why do American civilians own AR-15s? Well, according to Bushmaster, you may not be a man if you don't have one. These weapons are prolific. Advertised as the very same weapons our servicemen use in Iraq, since they have been reintroduced into the civilian market in 2004, they have exploded in popularity. There's no record of how many of these are in civilian hands. In fact, in many states, it is illegal to keep any record of gun ownership. But the NRA estimates that there are 8 million of them owned by civilians these days. 8 million. There hasn't been a declared war on US soil in 150 years. And yet we are bringing weapons specifically designed to kill as many enemy as fast as possible onto our streets. I went into combat to ensure that Americans are able to live their lives freely, and they are being killed by these weapons, and we're still saying it's not time to talk about it. Now, the Constitution gets evoked every time the gun debate comes up. So it is important to look at the preamble, the foundation on which every amendment to our Constitution is built. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty on ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Is it a more perfect union that we are creating when we bring weapons of war onto our streets? Is it domestic tranquility that our students are engaged in active shooter drills? Is it a blessing of liberty that neither ourselves nor our posterity can go to school, a church, a concert, or even a hospital without the fear of hearing this?
Holy shit. Holy shit! Oh my god! Oh my god!
Some guns taught me life lessons. Some guns brought me closer to my family. Some guns helped me make delicious meals for my friends. Some are weapons of war. Shooting skeet was really fun when I was a little girl, and it's still a lot of fun now. But killing people, watching your friends die, and the emotional and physical trauma that is with you every day after is not. Weapons of war do not belong in American places of peace. Thank you.